This is a disaster. Why wasn't a translator arranged? Dalton hissed to his assistant, a red-faced young man gripping an iPad like a shield. We had one confirmed from the university. She canceled this morning. We tried calling agencies, but it's Sunday. Unacceptable, Dalton snapped. He's Takata. This entire deal hinges on him feeling respected. And right now, we look like amateurs. Hiroshi adjusted his glasses and spoke again, slightly firmer this time. The assistant manager attempted a nervous smile and offered him a bottle of water. The billionaire didn't take it. To make matters worse, 3 American investors had just walked in behind him. They paused, exchanged glances, and whispered among themselves. One of them chuckled under his breath, loud enough to be heard. Guy can't even speak English? How the hell's he worth billions? Dalton's ears turned red. Every camera, every phone, every pair of eyes in the lobby seemed to be watching this spiral. That's when a quiet voice broke the tension. I can help. Dalton turned toward the voice. So did everyone else. It came from the edge of the lobby, near the elevator, where Anna stood in her faded housekeeping uniform, holding a supply cart. Her dark curls were pulled back into a neat bun. She looked young, mid-20s, at most, but her eyes were calm, certain. I speak Japanese, she said again, clearer this time. Dalton blinked in disbelief. You? Anna, housekeeping, she replied quietly. The veins in Dalton's neck twitched. He stepped toward her quickly, voice lowered but sharp. Not now. This is a high-profile negotiation, not some tourist mix-up. Go back to your floor. I can really help, Anna said, steady but respectful. I understand him. Dalton waved a hand as if swatting away a bug. Don't start something you can't finish. The last thing I need is a cleaning girl trying to play hero. You screw this up, it's my head. Do you understand? Go. Away. Anna didn't move. She looked at Takata, saw his hand still calmly clasped in front of him, but his eyes, they were watching everything. Then Anna stepped forward, not toward Dalton, toward Hiroshi. She stopped 3 feet in front of the man, bowed low in the quiet grace of someone who'd been taught to respect silence. Sumimasen, Takada-sama, she said softly in Japanese. Please forgive the confusion. Allow me to assist, if you'll permit it. If this moment moved you, if Anna's quiet courage reminded you that true strength often comes from the most unexpected places, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your reflections in the comments below. And if stories like this speak to something in you, stories of dignity, respect, and rising when it matters most, consider liking this video and subscribing for more. The room froze. Takata studied her. Then deliberately he returned the bow. He responded in Japanese, a string of thoughtful syllables. Anna nodded, turned to Dalton, and translated with calm precision. He says he informed the hotel of his language requirement weeks ago. He's disappointed but willing to continue if things improve. Immediately. Dalton blinked. Wait, he's not angry? Anna gave a tiny shrug. He's very polite. Dalton's tone shifted. Escort him to his suite. And, stay close. We'll talk about compensation later. As Anna turned to lead Mr. Takata toward the elevator, one of the investors, the one with the Rolex and the smirk, called out, Hey, sweetheart, you sure you're not just making it up? Anna stopped. Turned halfway. I can translate what you just said into Japanese if you'd like, she replied smoothly. Or I can let him assume you're simply rude. The investor said nothing. Dalton clenched his jaw but didn't speak again. He had been outplayed and he knew it. Inside the elevator, Takata stood in silence beside her. After a moment, he glanced at Anna. Kyoto? He asked in Japanese. She smiled faintly. 10 years. Katsura District. He gave a slight nod. You were taught well. Ah. When the elevator doors closed, Anna felt something shift inside her, something she hadn't felt in years. This wasn't just a misunderstanding she was fixing. This was a door she'd shut long ago, slowly creaking open again. And what lay beyond it? She wasn't sure, but she had just crossed the threshold, and she couldn't turn back now. Anna stood silently in the elevator, hands folded in front of her, eyes fixed on the glowing numbers as they ticked upward. The space between her and Mr. Takata was filled with a heavy stillness, not uncomfortable, but weighty. He hadn't spoken since asking if she'd lived in Kyoto. He simply stood there, as composed as a stone lantern in a temple courtyard. And yet, Anna knew he was watching everything. When the elevator stopped at the 28th floor reserved exclusively for VIP guests and investors, the doors slid open with a soft chime. Anna stepped out first, as etiquette dictated, then turned and bowed. Takada-sama, your suite duet 8000 de Allen is ready. This way, please, she said in Japanese. Takada nodded once and followed. The hallway was lined with thick carpet, walnut-paneled walls, and muted lighting that gave everything a quiet golden hue. Framed black and white photographs of Los Angeles from the 1962nd hung in perfect symmetry. Anna scanned her keycard, and the door unlocked with a click. The suite was spacious, elegant, and entirely too ordinary for someone like Takada. No fresh flowers, no custom welcome message, no sign that anyone had considered his preferences. Anna bowed once more. If there is anything else you need, sit, Takada said suddenly, in English. She paused. His voice was calm, deliberate, unsure. Anna walked over and sat on the edge of the leather sofa. Takada moved to the window, hands behind his back, gazing at the glowing skyline. Where did you learn Japanese? He asked in his native tongue. She hesitated before answering. I grew up in Kyoto, from age 7 to 17. Why did you leave? She drew in a breath. My mother passed away. My foster mother, she was Japanese, sent me back to live with relatives in the States. But no one is like Kyoto, he finished. Anna nodded. No one. There was a long silence. You shouldn't be here, he said quietly, turning to look at her. I know, she replied. I was about to leave. He nodded slowly. You are not like most Americans. Anna let out a soft laugh. I've heard that more times than I can count. You are polite, observant. You do not interrupt. I was raised by someone who taught me that language isn't just words. It's the silence between them. Takada's eyes softened. For the first time since he arrived, he seemed less guarded. Do you want me to keep interpreting for you? She asked. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, I don't want someone losing their job because they helped me. Anna blinked. Mr. Dalton wasn't happy I stepped in, she said carefully. He told me to go back to my floor. Why didn't you? She met his eyes. Because you looked alone. Takada studied her for a moment, then turned back toward the window. I need someone tomorrow, 9 a.m., meeting with investors. Can you come? I can, she said hesitantly, but I don't think Mr. Dalton will approve. Call in sick. And if I get fired? He looked at her fully now. I do not hire people because they aren't afraid of losing their jobs. I hire people who aren't afraid to do what's right. Those words hung in the air like a challenge and a promise. Anna left the suite at 7:03 p.m., heart heavy, thoughts tangled. It felt like she'd stepped back into a world she had buried long ago. As she reached the elevator, a uniformed security guard approached her from the stairwell. Anna Jones? Yes? Mr. Dalton wants to see you. Immediately. His office. She followed without a word. Down to the staff level, no gold-plated decor here. Just flickering fluorescent lights, scuffed tile floors, and the cold hum of real business. Dalton sat behind his desk, arms crossed, a folder open in front of him. Her name was printed in bold letters at the top of the page. What do you think you're doing? He snapped. I was helping Mr. Takada. By breaking protocol? By accessing a restricted floor without permission? This isn't some heartwarming indie movie, Anna. This is a $100 million deal. And you are a housekeeper. She didn't flinch, but she didn't back down either. He pulled out a printed warning notice. You're one step away from being terminated. You understand me? Yes. Tomorrow, you report to floor 7. That's it. If I catch you anywhere near the VIP suites, I'll have security escort you out. You so much as say one word of Japanese to that man again, you're done. Clear? Clear. He narrowed his eyes. Good. Anna stood. At the door, she turned not in defiance, but with quiet force. You're not the only one who understands the value of silence, Mr. Dalton. Then she left, the door clicking behind her like a final note. Upstairs, far above the buzzing staff corridors, Hiroshi Takada stood alone in his suite, brush in hand, painting black ink onto smooth rice paper. Somewhere between the lines, he had begun to sketch the shape of trust, and he had already chosen who he would listen to, whether she was fired tomorrow or not. The next morning, Anna stood outside the staff entrance. staring at the sunrise bleeding through the Los Angeles skyline. Her keycard buzzed red twice before the sensor blinked green and let her in. She could feel the weight of the previous night in her bones, Dalton's threat, the warning form, that moment in the elevator with Takata. It was all still with her, pulsing under her skin. Floor 7, cleaning carts. Guest room rotations. That was the instruction. Anna clocked in at 6:57 a.m. sharp and walked briskly to the laundry station. She nodded to Marta, the head housekeeper, and tried to disappear into the rhythm of folded towels and morning hallway chatter. Her cart was already stocked. Room 713, 717, 721. She started her rounds like any other day. But her thoughts weren't on linens or shampoo bottles. They were on Takata. At 9:02 a.m., as she was scrubbing the bathroom floor of 717, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, wiped her gloves on her apron, and answered quietly. "Hello?" A calm male voice replied in Japanese. "This is Kenji, assistant to Mr. Takata. He requested your presence in conference room A on floor 28. Her heart sank. I was told not to." He insisted. Kenji said simply, "Now." Anna stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, messy ponytail, uniform wrinkled from leaning into corners, gloves hanging from her fingers like wilted petals. "I'll be there," she said and hung up. She stripped off the gloves, washed her hands, and took the back stairwell faster than waiting for the service elevator. Each floor she passed echoed with her own self-doubt. Was this brave? Or stupid? By the time she reached floor 28, her chest was tight. She smoothed her uniform as best she could and pushed open the heavy glass doors to conference room A. The room was a symphony of power. Dark mahogany table, leather chairs, 3 American investors on one side, Ron Wilkins among them, flanked by 2 men in tailored suits with shark eyes. On the other side sat Hiroshi Takata, calm as a lake, and his assistant Kenji, typing notes silently on a tablet. Anna froze in the doorway. Ron looked up, eyes narrowing. What is she doing here? Takata didn't look away from the document in front of him. She is here to interpret, at my request. She's a janitor, Ron said, voice sharp. We have professionals scheduled to arrive in 20 minutes. Takata turned his gaze toward him. Then they will wait. Ron stood halfway from his chair. This isn't acceptable. This meeting is sensitive. She doesn't even have clearance. Takata spoke in Japanese. Anna, San, tell Mr. Wilkins that I prefer interpreters who do not lie for a living. Anna blinked, then translated evenly. Ron's face darkened with rage. Takata gestured for her to sit. She slid into the empty chair beside him. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice stayed steady. Kenji handed her a document. Translate for him as he reads. She nodded. The meeting began. Technical terms, intellectual property clauses, non-disclosure adjustments. Anna translated line by line, seamlessly switching between languages. She caught details the others glossed over, clarified Takata's requests before Kenji could rephrase them. Every word she spoke felt like walking a tightrope with no net. At one point, one of the investors leaned in and said, "We assumed your AI patents would be bundled with this deal, Mr. Takata." Takata paused, then looked at Anna. She translated. He replied calmly, "Assumptions are not contracts." The investors shifted uncomfortably. Anna felt a pulse of pride. Halfway through the meeting, Dalton burst into the room, face flushed and jaw clenched. He spotted Anna immediately. "You," he hissed. "Out, now." She was invited, Takata said without looking up. Dalton looked at Ron, seeking backup. "She's a liability," Ron snapped. "We don't even know who she really is." Anna stood slowly. "I am Anna Jones. I mop floors, yes. I also speak fluent Japanese. And apparently, I'm the only one in this room who knows how to listen." Silence. The tension was sharp enough to cut. Takata leaned back slightly and placed a hand on the folder in front of him. "If she leaves, I leave." Dalton's mouth opened, then shut. Kenji typed something rapidly. Finally, Ron gave a sharp nod. "Fine, she stays, but she speaks only when spoken to." Takata looked at Anna and raised an eyebrow, almost amused. She gave a small nod. She understood the rules, and she would break them only when it mattered. The meeting continued. At 10:26 a.m., Takata closed the folder. "We are done for today." The Americans left quickly, whispering to each other. Ron lingered at the door, giving Anna one last look. "Stay in your lane," he said under his breath. Anna didn't flinch. "My lane just merged into yours." He scowled and walked off. Once the room cleared, Takata turned to her. "You were better than I expected." "Thank you," she said. "I have another meeting tomorrow. Higher stakes. Would you come again?" She hesitated. "Mr. Dalton might fire me tonight." "If he does," Takata said, standing, "he'll regret it." He left without another word. Anna sat there for a moment longer, feeling the heat of the morning, the adrenaline, the disbelief that she had just held her ground against three powerful men in a room she was never supposed to enter. She stood, smoothed her apron, and headed back to the staff level. Whatever happened next, she had already stepped too far to turn around. By the time Anna returned to the staff floor, the air felt heavier. Whispers had already started spreading like wildfire, half-formed, exaggerated, but carrying just enough truth to sting. She was in the investor meeting. "I heard she corrected one of the lawyers, in Japanese. They said Mr. Takata smiled because of her. That can't be true, right?" Anna didn't respond. She moved quickly through the hall, ignoring the sideways glances. She wasn't looking for praise, and certainly not permission. But the looks still hurt. It was the same kind of quiet dismissal she'd grown up with. Stay in your place, masked by polite nods and tight smiles. She headed straight for the janitor's closet and closed the door behind her. The smell of bleach and old linen was oddly comforting. She leaned against the shelves and let out a breath she'd been holding since the conference room. He said I was better than expected. And yet, that praise could cost her everything. A knock on the door startled her. It creaked open. Marta peeked in. "Anna." "Yes?" "Dalton wants you. Right now. His office." Anna's stomach dropped. She nodded silently, removed her apron, and followed Marta out. As she passed through the lobby, she caught a glimpse of herself in the polished window. Wrinkled uniform, loosened hair, eyes tired but clear. Dalton's office door was already open when she arrived. He was seated behind his desk, not alone. Ron Wilkins stood near the bookshelf, arms crossed, his Rolex glinting under the light. Neither of them looked happy. "Sit," Dalton said. Anna did. There was a long silence. "You've made quite the impression," Dalton began, voice measured. "Mr. Takata seems taken with you." "I was just helping," she replied evenly. "Yes, well, helping is one thing. Inserting yourself into classified meetings, correcting translations in front of investors, and embarrassing a billion-dollar client partner." "She embarrassed you," Ron cut in. Dalton raised a hand, trying to maintain a fragile sense of composure. "Regardless, it's clear this arrangement is complicated. Mr. Takada requested your presence for tomorrow's meeting as well." Anna didn't reply. "I've spoken with HR," Dalton continued. "You're being placed on administrative hold, effective immediately. You'll be paid for this week, but you won't be on the schedule." "Wait," Anna said, sitting forward. "You're suspending me for doing my job?" "You're not a translator," Ron snapped. "You're a cleaning girl who got lucky." Anna's jaw tightened. "Then why did Mr. Takata request me again?" "Because people like him enjoy novelty," Ron smirked. "A housekeeper who speaks Japanese? That's great PR, but don't think for a second that makes you irreplaceable." Dalton slid a folded paper across the desk. It was the formal suspension notice. "You should leave quietly, Anna," he said, softer this time. "Don't make this harder." Anna stood slowly. She didn't touch the paper. "If this is about control," she said quietly, "you already lost it. The moment you ignored what he needed and I didn't." Ron scoffed. "You don't know anything about business. I know enough to recognize when a deal is built on ego instead of respect." Dalton looked down, suddenly busy with his pen. Without another word, Anna turned and walked out. She didn't cry in the hallway. She didn't flinch when Marta gave her a questioning look. She went to the locker room, changed out of her uniform, and stepped outside into the Los Angeles afternoon sunlight. The warmth felt foreign, so did the stillness. She wandered to a nearby cafe she used to visit on slow shifts. It was quiet this time of day. The barista didn't recognize her without the uniform. As she waited for her coffee, her phone buzzed. Unknown number again. She answered. Anna speaking. Anna-san, said a familiar voice. This is Kenji. She stepped outside. Yes? Mr. Takada was informed of your suspension. Anna's heart pounded. He is not pleased. I can imagine. Kenji paused. He has instructed me to ask if you would be willing to attend tomorrow's meeting regardless, as his personal guest, not as staff. Anna blinked. Is that even allowed? He owns 3% of this hotel. What he allows tends to become policy. She was silent for a moment then. What's the meeting about? Kenji's tone changed slightly. The real negotiation begins tomorrow. What happened today was only posturing, but Mr. Takada believes someone within the partnership may be trying to manipulate the translation to shift contract terms. Anna inhaled sharply. You think they're rewriting clauses in English versions? We think they already have. He trusts your eyes. The gravity of it sank in. This wasn't about politeness anymore. It was about precision and power. I'll be there, Anna said. Mr. Takada will send a car. 8:30. She hung up and stood there for a moment, staring into the sky. From hotel janitor to key witness in a multi-million-dollar negotiation overnight. And all because she spoke the language no one thought she could, and paid attention when no one else did. But tomorrow, that attention might cost her more than just a job. It might expose something far worse, something deliberate. She sipped her coffee and whispered to herself, "You're in it now." And for the first time, she didn't feel like running. The black sedan arrived precisely at 8:30 a.m., just as Kenji had promised. It was sleek, unbranded, and so quiet that Anna nearly missed it pulling up outside her building. The driver stepped out without a word, opened the rear door, and nodded. Anna hesitated just long enough to feel the weight of what she was doing. She wasn't clocking in. She wasn't wearing a uniform. She wasn't even walking through the staff entrance. Today, she wasn't a housekeeper. She was something else, something no one had expected. She slid into the back seat. The ride to the Laurel Palace was silent. Her phone buzzed once an email from the hotel HR department, reminding her she was still on administrative hold. She deleted it without opening it. When the car pulled up to the main entrance, guests turned to look. Anna stepped out wearing a simple navy blouse and black slacks, clothes she hadn't worn since her job interview over a year ago. Her curls were pinned back neatly. She carried no bag, no notebook, just the weight of what she now knew. Someone inside that boardroom had been tampering with Takada's contracts, and she was walking straight into it. Kenji was already waiting for her in the lobby. He bowed slightly. Anna-san, thank you for coming. Is Mr. Takada inside? He's reviewing the translated contracts now. He'd like your assistance before the meeting begins. Anna followed him through a side corridor toward a private business suite. As they walked, hotel staff glanced at her, some confused, others whispering. She recognized the expressions. She'd worn them herself once, staring at things she didn't understand. Inside the suite, Takada sat at a long table, sleeves rolled to his elbows, surrounded by 3 folders and a legal pad. He looked up and gave a small nod. You came? You asked. He motioned to the chair beside him. Read this. Anna sat. The folder in front of her was marked in 2 versions, English and Japanese. The first 2 pages were identical, but by the third, a clause caught her attention. Clause 4. 6-inch, the Japanese version. Intellectual property rights shall remain under the sole ownership of Takada Innovations. In the English, intellectual property rights shall be jointly managed under the operating agreement with primary oversight by U.S. partners. Anna blinked. This isn't a translation error. It's deliberate. Takada's jaw tightened, just slightly. Yes. Who handled this version? Kenji answered. Mr. Wilkins submitted the translated documents last Friday. Our legal team missed it. Anna scanned the next page. Another inconsistency. Clause 6.2 regarding arbitration jurisdiction. In the Japanese version, Tokyo. In the English, Delaware. I've seen enough, she said quietly. Takada didn't speak. He simply closed the folder, stood, and straightened his cuffs. His eyes met hers. I do not need a translator today, he said. I need a witness. At 9:15, they entered conference room B together. It was the same room from the day before, but the energy was different, thicker, heavier. Wilkins was already seated, flanked by the same 2 investors. Dalton was there too, wearing a smile that looked stapled onto his face. This time, Anna walked in ahead of them. No apologies. No hesitation. Takada took his seat and gestured for Anna to sit at his left. He placed the English and Japanese folders side by side on the table. "We'll begin with final clause confirmation," Kenji announced. Wilkins leaned back casually. "Of course. I trust everything is now in order?" Takada slid the documents across the table. "Clause 4.6, he said simply. "Read it aloud, in both languages." Wilkins frowned. "Why?" "Because I asked." With a visible sigh, Wilkins began. He read the Japanese version first accurately, fluently. Then he picked up the English version and read, "Intellectual property rights shall be jointly managed under the operating agreement with primary oversight by U.S. partners." Silence. Takada stared at him, then looked to Anna. "Miss Jones," he said, "please explain the discrepancy." Anna's voice was clear. "In the Japanese version, it says Mr. Takada retains sole ownership of his technology. In the English version, it hands over decision-making to U.S. parties." Wilkins let out a hollow laugh. "It's a drafting oversight. The legal language is flexible." "It is not flexible," Takada said coldly. "It is fraud." Dalton shifted in his seat. "Surely we can clarify the language." "No," Takada interrupted. "You can explain why you thought I wouldn't notice." Wilkins bristled. "Are you accusing us of deception?" "I am stating facts," Takada replied. "Facts confirmed by this woman who you tried to remove." Anna looked across the table, straight into Ron Wilkins' eyes. "You didn't just underestimate Mr. Takada," she said. "You underestimated someone who mops your floors." Dalton stood up. "I think we need to take a break." "No," Takada snapped. "We end this now." He turned to Kenji and gave a brief nod. Kenji reached into his briefcase and placed a small recording device on the table. "This meeting is now being documented. All parties present have agreed to full transparency." Wilkins pallid. "You can't." "I can," Takada said, standing. "And I will. The deal is terminated." Dalton sputtered. "You can't walk away. We've spent months. And you spent them trying to deceive me." Takada turned to Anna. "Shall we?" She stood slowly. Her hands were shaking, but she kept them steady at her sides. They left the conference room together, cameras flashing from one of the legal assistants who had slipped out to call the press. No one stopped them. In the hallway, Takada paused and looked at her. "You could have stayed silent," he said. "I've done that before," Anna replied. "It never helped anyone." He smiled just barely. "Do you like sushi?" She blinked. Yes? "I have a reservation at Ginza Onodera tonight. I'd be honored if you'd join me." She laughed quietly. "Is this a job offer or a thank you dinner?" "Both," he said. "I've learned the most valuable person in any room is usually the one no one is looking at." That night, as Anna walked alone beneath the golden sky of early evening, her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't from HR. It was from Kenji. Subject: Offer of employment message. Mr. Takada would like to retain you as personal interpreter and liaison for his U.S. engagements, starting immediately. And underneath, a handwritten line scanned from Takada's desk. "Read between the lines, then speak the truth, always." Anna closed her eyes, let the wind brush her face, and smiled. She hadn't just changed the meeting. She'd changed the balance of power, and she wasn't going back. The next morning, the Laurel Palace was unusually quiet, not in the peaceful, luxury hotel sense, but in the tight-lipped, glass-about-to-shatter kind of way. Word had spread like wildfire. What happened in that boardroom had not only reached the upper floors, it had seeped down to the staff cafeteria, the laundry rooms, even the bellhop chat groups. Anna Jones, once the girl with the mop, was now the woman who walked out beside a Japanese billionaire, arm in arm with integrity and evidence. But not everyone was applauding. Inside his private office, General Manager Ron Wilkins slammed his desk drawer shut with a curse. His jaw clenched as he scrolled through emails, 5 from the legal team, 2 from PR, and a particularly scathing one from the parent company in New York titled, "Clarify Takada Incident Immediate Action Required." He knew what that meant. They were looking for someone to blame, and he'd be damned if it was going to be him. Ron hit the intercom. "Send Claire in." Moments later, Claire Hastings, Director of Human Resources, stepped into the room, heels clicking against the floor like warning bells. She carried a folder labeled Anna Jones. "I assume you've heard?" he snapped. "I've heard what the entire hotel has," she replied, composed. "That she prevented a legal scandal and saved the company from international humiliation." Wilkins glared. She also disobeyed protocol, inserted herself into high-level negotiations, and embarrassed me in front of key investors. She spoke fluent Japanese. She stopped a breach of contract. Our own team didn't catch those errors. She was suspended, he barked. And yet she walked in like she owned the place. "I want her out." Claire raised an eyebrow. "Fire her? For being right? For being insubordinate?" he seethed. "For creating a media circus. For making me look incompetent." Claire didn't flinch. She opened the folder and read from a document. "As of this morning, Mr. Takada's office has formally requested Miss Jones be granted full guest access and unrestricted movement throughout the premises, including boardroom facilities, effective immediately." He refers to her as a critical liaison to international negotiations. Wilkins stood up so quickly his chair toppled. No. I don't care who she helped. She is staff. You don't turn a maid into a negotiator overnight." Claire's voice was calm, but her words sharp. "It wasn't overnight, Ron. She learned Japanese over the past 4 years. In her own time, on her own dime. She graduated with a linguistics degree before cleaning our floors." Wilkins's lip curled. "You're telling me she's been sitting on a degree while folding towels?" "I'm telling you she's been overlooked," Claire replied. "Like a lot of people around here." Wilkins shook his head. "I won't allow it. Not in my hotel." Claire closed the folder and placed it on his desk. "Then perhaps it won't be your hotel much longer." He stared at her, chest heaving, as she turned and walked out. Meanwhile, in the upper lounge of the hotel, Anna was already in quiet conversation with Mr. Takada and 2 members of his legal team. She wore the same navy blouse, but her posture had changed. She sat upright, confident, her voice even and clear as she translated every line with precision. After the meeting, Takada stood and gently touched her shoulder. "You carry yourself differently today," he said. "I feel different," she admitted. He handed her a small card, his personal cell number. "There are very few people I trust. You've earned that place. But trust brings scrutiny and enemies." Anna nodded. "I understand." "Do you?" he asked, his tone deeper. "The closer you stand to power, the more people will want to knock you down. Not because you've done wrong, but because you don't belong in their eyes." She swallowed hard. "That's how it's always been, for people like me." His eyes softened. "Then let's make them see differently." As they exited the lounge, they passed a small group of hotel executives whispering in a corner. Anna caught snippets. "She's just a maid. This will blow over. He's using her as a prop." But she didn't flinch. She walked taller. Back at her modest apartment that night, Anna pulled out a shoebox from under her bed. Inside were letters of rejection, scholarship essays, her degree certificate, and an old language textbook with her handwriting on nearly every page. She traced the spine of the book slowly, remembering the nights she'd studied after cleaning rooms, the audio lessons she played while scrubbing floors, the moments she almost quit. A knock on her door pulled her back. It was her neighbor, Mrs. Green, holding a newspaper. "You're in here," she said, eyes wide. Anna unfolded the paper, a full-color photo, herself, seated beside Takada, pointing at the contract. The headline read, "Hotel Maid Exposes. Multi-million-dollar fraud Takada praises. Voice of integrity." Mrs. Green smiled. "You've made us proud, baby." Anna blinked hard. "Thank you." As the door closed and the apartment returned to silence, she sat on the edge of her bed, clutching the paper. For the first time in her life, she wasn't invisible, and that scared her more than anything else. But this time, she wasn't going to run. She was going to speak. And this time, the whole world would listen. 2 days later, the Laurel Palace hosted a private luncheon in the Imperial Suite, an exclusive gathering of the hotel's top investors and foreign partners, including dignitaries from Singapore, Paris, and Tokyo. The carpet was red, the chandeliers glimmered, and the room buzzed with light conversation and the clinking of glasses. Everything looked perfect on the surface. But underneath that shine, tension simmered. Anna stood by the far end of the suite, translating for Takata, as he reviewed a new investment proposal. She had been officially granted cultural liaison status temporary, as the executive board had insisted, but it was a title that still came with access, visibility, and power, and that made certain people very uncomfortable. Ron Wilkins entered the room with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. His tailored charcoal suit hugged his frame like armor, and his stride was deliberately confident. He made a beeline toward the investors from New York, offering practiced charm and flattery. But every so often, his eyes flicked toward Anna. She noticed. She always noticed. After the formal greetings, a hush fell as Ron stepped to the microphone stand. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored today to host our esteemed partners and the visionary Mr. Takata. May this luncheon mark not only a celebration of our progress, but also a renewal of trust and global unity. Polite applause followed, but Takata did not smile. He leaned toward Anna and muttered in Japanese, "He smiles too much when he lies." Anna suppressed a smirk. "That's because he thinks no one understands." Takata's eyes twinkled with amusement. "But you do." The luncheon continued. Dishes were served: grilled salmon with lemon dill, butternut squash, soup, roasted asparagus. Anna tried to stay focused, but her phone vibrated in her pocket. She glanced at it, a new email. Subject line: HR, disciplinary review. Notice, Anna Jones. She felt her stomach drop. Excusing herself discreetly, she walked toward a quieter hallway and opened the email. It was short, cold, and devastating. Per internal review of recent conduct and chain of command violations, you are hereby requested to attend a formal disciplinary hearing this Friday. Failure to comply may result in termination. It was signed by Ron Wilkins. For a moment, Anna just stood there, her hands trembling. She thought about how hard she had worked, how far she had come, and how easily it could all be taken away with a form, a signature, a smile behind a desk. Then she heard a voice, quiet, composed. "You know they're scared of you." Anna turned. Claire Hastings stood in the hallway, arms folded, eyes knowing. "I'm not doing anything wrong," Anna said, her voice hollow. "Number, but that's what makes it worse for them," Claire replied. "If you were incompetent, they could write you off. But you're not. You're good. Too good. They're going to fire me. Not if the right people see what's happening." Anna looked at her sharply. "What do you mean?" Claire handed her a slim envelope. "Read it when you're ready, and come by my office tonight. After hours." With that, Claire disappeared down the corridor, leaving Anna holding a sealed envelope with no explanation, only her name handwritten on the front in elegant script. Back inside the luncheon, Ron was already working the room, quietly whispering to several board members. He leaned toward one man, nodding toward Anna's empty chair. "I'm not sure she's the right fit. We appreciate initiative, but there are rules." Meanwhile, Takata noticed Anna's absence. He excused himself from the table and stepped outside. He found her seated on a bench under a shaded terrace, eyes closed, envelope still unopened. "You left before dessert," he said softly. She opened her eyes, just needed a moment. "Is it about that email?" he asked. She hesitated. "Yes." He sat beside her. "Do you know what we call people like you in Japan?" She shook her head. "Fushinsha, the disruptor. It's not always a compliment, but sometimes it's the person who sees the cracks in the foundation and dares to call them out." Anna looked down. "It's just, no matter how much I prove myself, they still see the maid uniform." Takata was silent for a moment. Then he pulled something from his coat pocket, a small origami crane, folded perfectly from fine paper. "In my culture," he said, 1,000 cranes grant you a wish. I only ever folded one for clarity." He placed it gently in her hand. "Keep going, Miss Jones. You've already changed more than you realize." That night, as darkness fell over the hotel, Anna made her way to Claire Hastings' office. The HR wing was quiet, most of the lights turned off. The usual hustle and bustle now a soft echo. Claire was waiting inside, sipping tea, and gestured for Anna to sit. "You opened the letter?" Anna nodded. "It was an old recommendation letter. From my college professor. I didn't know anyone still had it." Claire smiled. "I did, and so does Takata. Anna blinked. What? Claire turned her monitor to show an internal memo. Takata had formally nominated Anna for an open executive liaison position within his international group. Based in New York. Wait, that's a real job? It's not a gift. It's a transfer. A promotion. And if you accept it before Friday, Ron's little review won't mean a damn thing. Anna's breath caught in her throat. Claire leaned forward. But you need to make a decision. Quickly. Before he moves to bury you for good. Anna stood up slowly. She looked at the monitor. Then down at the origami crane still in her pocket. For the first time in weeks, she felt the ground beneath her feet begin to shift, not in fear, but in purpose. She wasn't just reacting anymore. She was preparing to fight back. The next evening, the Laurel Palace's east wing sparkled with candlelight and soft jazz. The event, a private dinner to welcome the Japanese investors, meant to be intimate and discreet, no press, no speeches, no photo ops, just the people who mattered behind closed doors. Anna arrived in a tailored black dress Claire had quietly arranged for her earlier that day. It was elegant, understated, but nothing like the uniforms she used to wear. As she stepped into the dining hall, she felt the weight of 100 eyes, not because she was a spectacle, but because she was part of the room. She scanned the table. Takata sat at the far end, already sipping from a cup of green tea. Ron Wilkins stood nearby, pouring wine and laughing too loudly at something a French investor had said. His eyes flicked to Anna, and this time, they narrowed. Anna took her seat beside Mr. Takata, who greeted her with a respectful bow of his head. Good evening, Miss Jones. Good evening, sir. Tonight is important. Keep your ears sharp. She nodded. The dinner began. The courses were traditional with a twist miso-glazed sea base, wasabi mashed potatoes, and a matcha creme brulee that impressed even the most skeptical palates. The conversation flowed in several languages: English, French, Japanese. Anna shifted with ease, translating, clarifying, and occasionally adding cultural insights that kept the evening smooth and fluid. And yet, Ron was circling. At one point, he pulled a waiter aside and murmured something. Moments later, the waiter approached Anna with a soft apology. There's a call for you, urgent, hotel line. Anna frowned, excused herself, and followed the waiter down the hall to the staff office. She picked up the phone. Dead silence. Then a click. She froze. When she returned to the dining room 10 minutes later, her seat was occupied. By Ron. He was laughing with Takata, pouring him more sake, leaning in as if they were lifelong friends. Anna stood, unsure of what to do. Then she turned and quietly stepped to the back of the room, pretending to check the wine list. Takata's eyes drifted to her. She gave a subtle nod. He raised his hand. Mr. Wilkins, he said calmly, I'd like Miss Jones back here, if you don't mind. She has a better ear. The entire table went quiet. Ron hesitated. His smile cracked for half a second. Then, of course, he muttered, rising from the chair and returning to his place farther down the table. Anna resumed her seat, heart racing, but she didn't show it. She just translated the next sentence, Takata whispered. A poetic idiom about cherry blossoms falling early this season. Dinner ended on a high note. The guests were impressed, plans were solidified, and Mr. Takata announced that he would be returning to Tokyo next week, but not before leaving behind a full delegation and a liaison to finalize the U.S. expansion. As the guests trickled out, Ron caught Anna alone near the main archway. You think you're clever, don't you? He said under his breath, that tight smile etched on his face. I don't think anything, she replied. I just work. Well, let me make something clear, he leaned in. You're not going to take this company from me. I built it. I brought him here. You're a guest, and guests eventually leave. Anna didn't flinch. Then maybe you shouldn't have let the guest learn your language. Before he could respond, Claire appeared at Anna's side. Everything all right here? Ron gave a curt nod and walked off without a word. Back in her room that night, Anna opened her laptop. A new message waited from Takata's office. A formal offer of the liaison position, fully salaried, with relocation support. Attached to the email was a personal note. I do not favor people for their titles, Miss Jones. I favor them for their clarity. T. She stared at it for a long time. Then, just before midnight, she pressed reply, but she didn't hit send. Not yet. Instead, She stood up and walked over to her window, overlooking the hotel courtyard below. The city lights flickered in the distance. She saw the staff moving about, cleaning up after the dinner, the rhythm of labor never seen by the guests. She knew that world. She had lived in it, and maybe that was her advantage. Her phone buzzed. Another email. This one, from her mother. Subject line, "Are you okay, baby?" The body of the email was short. "I saw your name on the company newsletter. I didn't know you were still in the city. I'm proud of you. No matter what happens, just remember you don't owe anyone silence." Anna's throat tightened. She turned back to her laptop. This time she clicked, send. She had accepted the new role, but she wasn't leaving Laurel Palace quietly, because the war hadn't ended. It had just begun. The following morning, Anna stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the lapel of her blazer. The air in her suite was still, except for the quiet hum of the city beyond the balcony. Today, she would officially begin her new role, liaison to Takada's Japanese team, overseeing communications between the U.S. division and Tokyo headquarters. But beneath the polished exterior, a storm brewed. Downstairs, the atmosphere was far less serene. Ron Wilkins paced the executive boardroom, jaw clenched. "She's just a translator. A translator. You're telling me she's now representing Takada's entire delegation?" "Yes, Ron," Claire said coolly from across the room. "That's exactly what's happening, and it's already been announced. You might want to stop acting like the last to know." Ron slammed his palm on the table. "This is a power play. You don't see it?" Claire didn't blink. "I see it perfectly. And you're losing." Anna entered the lobby 15 minutes later, composed but alert. As she approached the reception desk, the new protocol was clear. Every member of the Japanese team nodded to her with quiet respect. The staff at Laurel Palace, many of whom once barely noticed her, stepped aside, eyes wide. Power had shifted, but Anna didn't wear it loudly. She made her way toward the conference suite Takada had temporarily converted into his headquarters. Before she could enter, a hand grabbed her arm gently. It was Claire. "I hope you understand what you've just stepped into," Claire said softly. "I understand enough to know I can't back down now." Claire gave her a long look, then nodded. "Good. But be careful. You're not the only one who understands leverage." The morning meetings went smoothly, at least on the surface. Takada's team began mapping out the early stages of a tech integration project that would funnel millions into Laurel Palace's operations. Anna translated, clarified, and when necessary, made decisions on the spot. She noticed Ron wasn't present, which was both relief and warning. After the meeting, Takada pulled her aside. "There is a man arriving tonight," he said. "He was supposed to stay in Tokyo, but I've asked him to come. His name is Mr. Oda. He is not loud, but he listens better than anyone you've ever met. If he asks questions, answer carefully. His job is not business. His job is people." Anna tilted her head. "You mean, like an internal investigator?" Takada smiled. "I mean, he sees behind curtains. And right now, I believe there are many curtains in this hotel." Anna nodded, a ripple of unease moving through her chest. Understood. That evening, Anna went for a walk outside the hotel. She needed air, real air, not the crisp, recycled calm of conference rooms. She wandered past the marble fountains and into the side courtyard where the staff took smoke breaks. There, she saw Henry, the night doorman, sitting alone, sipping coffee from a thermos. "Evening," he said, tipping his cap. "Evening," she replied. "You look like someone who just found out the walls have ears." She smiled despite herself. "Something like that." Henry patted the bench beside him. "You know, I've been here 20 years. Seen people come in and out. Tourists, presidents, criminals dressed as CEOs. But there's always one thing in common." "What's that?" He looked her straight in the eye. "They all think no one's watching, but someone always is." She let the words settle. Back upstairs, Anna returned to her room and found an envelope slid under the door. No markings, just her name in block letters. Inside was a printed screenshot security footage, grainy, but clear. It was Ron, meeting with a man in a parking garage. Cash exchanged hands. Papers were passed. On the back of the page, a typed message: "You're not crazy. Keep going." No name, no signature. Anna's stomach dropped. She grabbed her phone, called Claire. "Come to my room, now." 10 minutes later, Claire was there, arms crossed. Anna handed her the photo. Claire's eyes narrowed. Where did this come from? I don't know, but whoever sent it wants me to keep digging. Claire studied the image. That's not just anyone he's meeting with. That's Harold Dennings. Used to be a contractor for the State Department. Rumor is, he runs backdoor channels now, gray money, blackmail, you name it. Anna swallowed. Then this isn't just about corporate power. No, Claire said. It never was. They sat in silence for a moment, the photo between them like a landmine waiting to go off. Then Anna stood. We need to find Mr. Oda, before Ron finds us. Claire nodded, already pulling out her phone. I'll arrange a secure meeting. Later that night, a soft knock came at Anna's door. A small, quiet man in a charcoal suit stood there, bowing slightly. Miss Jones, I am Oda. His voice was calm, his gaze unblinking. Anna stepped aside. Come in. As he entered, he looked around once, then sat. I hear you have something to show me, he said. Anna placed the photo on the table. Mr. Oda stared at it for a long time. Then, finally, he looked up. This changes everything, he whispered. And now, we must change everything with it. Anna sat across from Mr. Oda, watching the way his eyes scanned the grainy photo again and again, not with shock, but with confirmation. As though what he saw was simply the final piece in a puzzle he'd already begun to solve. The room was silent, save for the distant sound of jazz music playing in the lobby below and the steady ticking of the wall clock. You've known, Anna said slowly, haven't you, about Ron? Mr. Oda folded the paper and placed it on the coffee table with the kind of precision that made her uneasy. I suspected, now I know. Why now, she asked. Why come all the way to Los Angeles? He looked up. Because you acted, and because Mr. Takata watches those who take action when others remain still. Anna absorbed that in silence, the weight of it slowly settling. This wasn't just about language. It never had been. What happens next? She asked. Mr. Oda leaned forward slightly. I investigate quietly. You assist quietly. We find what has been buried beneath layers of politeness and power. And when we have enough, we strike not with anger, but with truth. Anna felt a chill crawl up her spine. You want me to keep working inside? Yes. As translator, as observer, and most importantly, as someone no one expects. The next morning, Anna resumed her duties, returning to the crisp cadence of translation and the seamless flow of Takata's meetings. But now, every interaction carried new weight. She watched Ron's movements carefully. He was growing bolder, stepping into rooms he had no authority in, pushing for updates on Japanese contracts, even suggesting more flexible clauses to accommodate unnamed investors. At lunch, Anna found herself seated beside Takata, a silent nod of trust now uniting them. He offered her miso soup and rice, served in small porcelain dishes he insisted on importing from Kyoto. There's a rhythm to power, he told her as they ate. It pretends to be chaotic, but if you listen closely, it repeats, like music, like fraud. That evening, back in her suite, Anna opened her laptop and logged into a secured channel Mr. Oda had installed. She uploaded the photo of Ron and Dennings, along with timestamps and location. The screen blinked once, then displayed a new message. Follow the transfer logs, payroll, vendor contracts, week of the 14th of July. She didn't sleep that night. She combed through line after line of financial data, most of which was buried in innocuous expense reports, guest services, kitchen renovations, temporary staffing. But one vendor kept surfacing, Horizon Event Logistics, a company supposedly hired for a tech conference last month. The payment? $280,000. The event? Never happened. She highlighted the entry and pinged it to Oda. 10 minutes later, a message appeared. That is your thread. Pull it. The following day, a press conference was scheduled in the Takata suite. Local media had been invited. Claire was overseeing production, and Ron, frustratingly dressed in a flawless navy suit, hovered like a vulture, greeting reporters with his politician's grin. Anna, Claire said under her breath, pulling her aside, we have a problem. Anna followed her into a side room where a younger staffer waited, pale and shaking. Tell her, Claire urged. The girl looked like she was barely 20. I was told to modify the sign-in logs, she stammered. The Horizon vendor. Mr. Wilkins said if I didn't erase the delivery records for the 15th of July, I'd be blacklisted from every hotel in the city. Did you do it? Anna asked. The girl looked at her shoes. Yes, but I kept the originals. On my phone. Anna's heart pounded. Send them to me. Now. With fresh evidence in hand, Anna approached Oda discreetly in the hallway just before the press conference began. He used hotel accounts to funnel funds, she whispered, and coerced the staff into hiding it. Oda said nothing. He simply turned and entered the room, taking a seat behind the podium. As the press filtered in, Takada entered quietly, flanked by his aides. Anna stood at the back, translating quietly for a Japanese official beside her. The cameras were ready. Lights flashed. Takada approached the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, we are grateful to the Laurel Palace for their hospitality. However, there are matters that require transparency before we proceed. At that moment, Mr. Oda stood and approached the microphone. Before any contracts are signed, he said evenly, we must address an internal breach of ethics. We have discovered falsified documentation, unauthorized payments, and intimidation of staff within this hotel. The room went dead silent. Ron stood slowly. This is outrageous. You have no proof. Anna stepped forward, heart hammering. Yes, we do. She held up her tablet, screen lit with the original vendor logs and time-stamped footage. Oda nodded. We will be forwarding this information to the authorities. Ron lunged forward, but two quiet security agents, Takada's men, intercepted him. You can't do this, Ron barked. This is my hotel. Takada finally spoke. No, he said calmly. It was your illusion. Now, it is reality's turn. Ron was escorted from the room. The press was stunned. Reporters jostled for quotes. Questions flew. Anna stood still, her hands shaking slightly, but her spine straight. Takada turned to her and gave the smallest of nods. Not approval, respect. Later that night, alone in her room, Anna watched the city lights flicker like 1,000 tiny signals. She wasn't just a maid. She wasn't just a translator. She had become something else entirely. And somewhere deep down, she knew this was only the beginning. The hallway outside the hotel ballroom was empty, but Anna's footsteps echoed like thunder in her chest. Her pulse was racing. She could still hear Mr. Harrington's words in her head, cold, dismissive, commanding. Stay out of this. You don't belong here. He hadn't even looked her in the eyes. She shouldn't have come back. And yet, she had. Because something didn't feel right. Not just about the interpreter disappearing or the sudden cancellations. Something deeper, darker. The Japanese billionaire, Mr. Yukimura, had tried to say something important, and no one listened. Anna stopped in front of the emergency stairwell door. She leaned against the cool metal, closed her eyes, and breathed deeply. She thought of her grandmother, who used to say, if your heart tells you to stand up, don't sit still just because it's easier. Her fingers curled into fists. She wasn't leaving. Not yet. Back in the ballroom, things were shifting. Mr. Harrington was doing damage control. He'd called in a new interpreter, a young white man in a crisp suit with a fake smile and a stiff bow. Yukimura had said something to him quietly, slowly, with intense clarity. The interpreter hesitated, then offered a watered-down version in English. Mr. Yukimura is happy to be here and is looking forward to investment opportunities. Yukimura's brow twitched. He repeated himself in sterner Japanese. The interpreter glanced nervously at Harrington, then said, he expresses gratitude to the American hospitality and hopes the meeting will be successful. Mr. Harrington beamed. Excellent. Let's proceed then. But Yukimura wasn't smiling. Anna returned just in time to witness this. She stood in the far corner of the room, unnoticed, her eyes locked on Yukimura. She could see it in his posture, the stiffness of someone not being heard. She knew that feeling intimately. Then something strange happened. As the business presentation started, Yukimura placed a small black notebook on the table. It was old, worn, and with quiet deliberation, he opened it, turned to a page marked by a red ribbon, and slid it across the table. Everyone stopped. The notebook was filled with writing in Japanese intermixed with numbers, flowcharts, and diagrams. Anna recognized it as a handwritten business model. Can someone translate this? One of the board members asked. The fake interpreter leaned over, squinted, and muttered, It's a personal journal, not important." "Excuse me," Anna's voice rang out, louder than she meant. Heads turned. She stepped forward, heart pounding, trying to silence the voice in her head telling her to sit back down. That's not what he said. And that book is not a personal journal. It's a breakdown of his company's long-term strategic vision and a warning. "Mr. Harrington stood up, furious. "Anna, you were told to leave. I came back because I care more about what's true than about your image," she snapped, surprising even herself. Yukimura looked up, his eyes locking onto hers. A flicker of recognition passed between them. Anna walked over and placed her hand gently on the notebook. "May I?" she asked softly, in Japanese. Yukimura nodded. She cleared her throat and began translating, paragraph by paragraph, without rushing, without fear. Her voice, though nervous at first, grew steadier with each word. Her Japanese was impeccable, respectful, nuanced, far beyond anything the interpreter had managed. She translated a paragraph about hidden equity schemes, another about false partnerships, and finally, a line that made everyone sit upright. 2 American executives are attempting to absorb Yukimura's patent portfolio under a shell company. Gasps. Board members looked around, confused. "Is this true?" one of them asked. Anna took a step back and nodded. "Mr. Yukimura has been trying to say this since he arrived." No one listened. They brought in someone to speak for him, but they weren't telling the truth. Mr. Harrington's face turned red. "This is ridiculous. She's a hotel maid. She's not qualified. I graduated summa cum laude in East Asian languages from UCLA, Anna said, her tone icy calm. "And I happen to speak fluent Japanese because my grandmother raised me on both languages." Yukimura stood now, his presence silent but towering. He looked at Anna, then bowed deeply. "Watashi wa anata ni kansha shitemasu, Anna-san." "I am grateful to you, Miss Anna." Anna bowed back, tears brimming in her eyes. The room was silent. Then one board member turned to Harrington. "Did you know about these partnerships, these patent transfers?" I mean, that's just one interpretation," he stammered. Another board member rose. "We need to halt everything. No further signatures, no funding transfers, until we've investigated this." Yukimura slowly closed his notebook. Then he turned to the room, and in broken English, said, "Only she, listen, only she, speak truth." Mr. Harrington stormed out. Anna stood frozen for a moment, overwhelmed by everything. She wasn't supposed to be part of this meeting. She wasn't supposed to matter. And yet, she did. She mattered. And as the door swung closed behind the disgraced executive, Anna felt something inside her shift. Not just relief, but something fiercer, dignity, purpose. Outside, a storm was rolling in. Rain splattered against the tall glass windows. The city buzzed below. But inside the ballroom, everything had changed. And Anna knew this was only the beginning. The elevator ride down from the top-floor ballroom felt like an eternity. Anna stood between 2 silent board members, her reflection flickering in the brushed metal walls. She clutched the small black notebook Yukimura had handed her, its pages still warm from the tension in the room. Everything inside her buzzed, not just from adrenaline, but from something deeper. For once, she had stepped into the storm instead of shrinking from it. When the doors slid open into the hotel lobby, she expected stares or whispers. Instead, there was an odd hush, like the building itself was holding its breath. She walked past the concierge desk, past the marble statue she used to dust, past the security guard who didn't make eye contact. In the corner of the lounge, she spotted a familiar face, Marcia, the elderly housekeeper who had taken Anna under her wing when she first started. Marcia's eyes widened when she saw her. She stood slowly and opened her arms. Anna didn't hesitate. She walked straight into the embrace. "I heard what happened," Marcia whispered. "You made them listen." "I wasn't trying to," Anna said. "I just couldn't let them lie." Marcia pulled back, placing both hands on Anna's cheeks. "Sometimes, baby, that's exactly what heroes do." Anna managed a smile, but it faded as her eyes drifted toward the entrance. A group of men in dark suits entered briskly, lawyers, perhaps. One of them was speaking into an earpiece, and another carried a silver briefcase. They're not done, Marcia said grimly. Not by a long shot. Anna's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered cautiously. Hello? A voice on the other end, accented but warm, spoke softly. Miss Anna, this is Yukimura, San's personal assistant. Mr. Yukimura would like to invite you to lunch. Private room, rooftop garden, 1 hour. Will you come? Anna hesitated. Yes, I will. The line went dead. Marcia raised an eyebrow. What now? I think I've been summoned, Anna said, trying to steady her nerves. She spent the next half hour freshening up in the service locker room. Her uniform was still damp from the earlier chaos, so she borrowed a spare blouse from the lost and found bin plain but clean. She pulled her hair back into a neat ponytail and stared into the cracked mirror. You belong in that room, she whispered to herself, no matter what they say. The rooftop garden was unlike anything she had seen in the building, hidden behind frosted glass and layers of security. A sanctuary of sculpted trees, koi ponds, and bamboo pathways. At the center, a table had been set for two. Yukimura was already seated, sipping green tea from a delicate porcelain cup. He stood as she approached and gave her a respectful bow. Anna, San, he said, smiling gently. Please, sit. Thank you for inviting me, she replied, settling into the seat opposite him. A few quiet moments passed. The garden was peaceful, as if it existed outside of time. I owe you an apology, Yukimura said. I knew something was wrong. I felt the lies, but I lacked the words to stop them. You gave me those words. I just told the truth, Anna replied softly. That is never just, he said. A server approached and placed 2 bowls of miso soup on the table, followed by a platter of sushi and warm sake. Yukimura poured for them both. I want to ask you something personal, he said after a pause. Do you believe in fate? Anna blinked. I'm not sure. I think I believe in responsibility. If we see something wrong, we have to act. He nodded. Good, because I believe fate brought you into that room. And now I must offer you a choice. He reached into his jacket and slid a small envelope across the table. She opened it. Inside was a business card, thick, embossed, with his name and the logo of his investment firm. Beneath it was a handwritten note. Cultural liaison, Tokyo Initiative, full sponsorship, if you accept. Anna stared at it. I don't understand. I am launching a new division in the United States, he said. One built on truth, transparency, and cross-cultural understanding. I want you to be part of it. I will train you, you will grow, and you will never be silenced again. Tears welled in her eyes. But I'm not qualified. I've never worked in an office. I'm a maid. You are more, Yukimura said firmly. You are a bridge, between words, between worlds. Anna looked down at her trembling hands. All her life, she'd believed opportunity belonged to other people, people with degrees, money, connections, not girls like her, not daughters of janitors, not kids who learned Japanese from their grandmother between cleaning shifts. But maybe that had always been her qualification. I want to accept, she whispered. I do. Then it is done, Yukimura said. You begin next week. Quietly. There are still forces who would stop this. She nodded, sobered by the reality. The fight wasn't over. But at least now, she wasn't fighting alone. As the meeting ended and Yukimura's assistant escorted her to the private elevator, Anna felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. For the first time in her life, a door had opened because of her voice, not in spite of it. And deep down she knew, more doors would follow. But so would more resistance. Justice had a price, and Anna was finally ready to pay it. The morning sun spilled through the windows of Anna's modest apartment, like a quiet promise. It had been 3 days since the rooftop meeting with Yukimura, and the card he gave her still sat on her nightstand, unopened again since that night. She had memorized every word. Her new role would begin quietly, unannounced to the staff, invisible to the press, and completely off the books. For now, she stood in front of her closet, fingering the collar of a blouse that still smelled faintly of the hotel's laundry room. It wasn't the crisp white shirt of a corporate employee, but it would do. She tied her hair back, grabbed the simple canvas bag she always carried, and walked out the door with a new kind of resolve in her chest. When she arrived at the hotel, The lobby looked exactly the same, but she felt different. There was no whispering this time, no hushed stares, only quiet acknowledgement, like the building itself had shifted to accommodate the change in her. Near the back of the staff corridor, she found Marcia sorting towels in the linen room. "They told me you weren't on schedule today," Marcia said, surprised. "I'm not," Anna replied with a smile. "I'm in a different department now." Marcia raised an eyebrow. "You quit?" "No," Anna said. "I got promoted." Marcia dropped the towel she was folding and let out a low laugh. "Girl, don't tell me you're moving upstairs." "Not exactly." Anna stepped forward and took her old mentor's hand. "But I won't be cleaning rooms anymore." Marcia looked into her eyes and saw something that made her nod with quiet pride. "Good. You were always meant for more." Anna left through the back corridor, her steps steady, her thoughts clear. Yukimura's assistant had instructed her to meet in a quiet satellite office rented off-site, across the street from the hotel. A short walk led her to a gray commercial building nestled between a bank and a pastry shop. The elevator groaned with age, but the office it delivered her to was sleek and modern minimalist furniture, large windows, and silence thick with purpose. She was greeted by a young Japanese woman in a smart suit, who bowed slightly. "Anna-san, welcome." Inside, Yukimura sat at a long table reviewing a thick folder of printed reports. When he saw her, he smiled and motioned for her to sit. "There is much to discuss," he said. They spent the morning going over briefing materials. Anna was shocked by how easily she absorbed everything. Her years cleaning rooms, listening quietly to guests, studying languages in stolen moments, had sharpened her ability to observe and remember. By lunch, she was summarizing documents aloud in both English and Japanese. Yukimura didn't praise her outwardly, he didn't need to. His approving glances were enough. But not everyone was thrilled by her rise. That afternoon, as she left the building, a man in a charcoal suit stood by the street corner. He wore designer sunglasses and held a phone loosely in one hand. His smile was wrong too smooth. "Anna, right?" he said, stepping into her path. She froze. "Do I know you?" He extended a hand but didn't offer a name. "I work with some of the investors Mr. Yukimura recently dismissed. Thought maybe we could talk." I don't have anything to say to you," she said flatly. "That's fine," he replied. "You can listen instead." She turned to walk away, but his voice followed her. "Be careful who you align yourself with, Anna. Power changes things, and not always for the better." She didn't look back, but she felt the chill stay with her all the way home. That night, as she lay in bed, her thoughts swirled. The warning, the man's tone, the subtle threat, it reminded her just how fragile her place was. She wasn't protected by title or tenure. She was a wild card, and some people feared that more than they feared Yukimura himself. The next day, she reported to the satellite office again. But this time, Yukimura wasn't alone. An older man in his late 50s sat across from him, graying temples, a tailored suit, and cold eyes that barely flicked toward her when she entered. "Anna-san," Yukimura said calmly. "This is Mr. Caldwell. He represents a local strategic partner. They've expressed concerns about our direction." Anna nodded politely, sensing the tension. "Let's be honest," Caldwell said, folding his hands. "We're not comfortable with a former maid being this close to confidential operations. It creates optics." Anna opened her mouth, but Yukimura raised a hand. "Miss Anna is not merely close to operations," he said coolly. "She is essential to them. Her understanding of cultural nuance and language has already prevented 2 misinterpretations this week. If your concern is reputation, I suggest you reconsider what reputation you wish to protect." Caldwell's jaw tightened. "This isn't Tokyo. People talk. Boards get nervous." "Let them," Yukimura said. "I'm not here to appease cowards." The meeting ended without a handshake. Caldwell left with his shoulders rigid and his pride bruised. Anna remained seated, uncertain. "You didn't have to defend me," she whispered. "Yes, I did," Yukimura replied, "because men like him aren't afraid of mistakes. They're afraid of voices they can't control." Anna looked out the window, the city humming below, and understood something new. The battle ahead wasn't just about business or status. It was about identity, belonging, voice. And now, her voice had entered rooms it was never meant to be in. She wasn't going to whisper anymore. 3 days later, Anna found herself standing before the glass doors of the Grand Park Ballroom, one of the most exclusive venues in downtown Chicago. A high-stakes investor conference was underway, and the hotel had been selected to host the closing gala. It wasn't just a party. It was a stage where reputations would be made or broken. Yukimura had asked Anna to accompany him not as a translator, but as an unofficial liaison to the American guests. "Observe everything," he'd said. "Not just what they say, but what they don't." She entered with him through a side corridor, avoiding the main red carpet. The room was already buzzing with the hum of conversation, glasses clinking, silverware tapping lightly against plates. Anna's heels clicked softly on the marble floor. She wore a sleek navy dress Yukimura's assistant had provided, understated, elegant. It fit her like it had been waiting for this night. Across the room, a familiar face appeared: Marcia. Dressed in a formal black service uniform, she was helping coordinate the event logistics. Their eyes met briefly. Marcia's face lit up in silent pride. But not everyone was pleased to see Anna. Near the bar, Martin Caldwell stood in a tight group of executives, laughing a little too loudly. When his eyes caught hers, his smile vanished, replaced by something cold and calculating. "She shouldn't be here," he murmured to the man next to him, a white-haired board member named Douglas Keene. "It sends the wrong message." Keene gave a casual shrug. "Yukimura seems to like her." Caldwell's voice dropped. "Too much. That's the problem." Meanwhile, Anna circulated discreetly, offering translations when needed, and gently correcting a few miscommunications between Japanese investors and American partners. But beneath the polished surface, tension churned. At one point, she passed near a cluster of junior executives. Their conversation stopped when she approached. One of them, a man no older than 30, muttered under his breath, "Didn't she used to clean rooms here?" The comment wasn't meant for her ears, but she heard it, every word, and she kept walking, chin high. She found Yukimura speaking with an elderly Japanese gentleman, Mr. Hashimoto, a quiet but powerful investor from Osaka. Anna bowed respectfully and offered a greeting in perfect Kansai dialect. Hashimoto's eyes widened with surprise and delight. "Ah, you speak like you were born in Nara." "My grandfather studied in Nara," she replied softly. "I used to read his letters." Hashimoto smiled and nodded with deep approval. "You honor him well." When they parted, Yukimura leaned toward her. "You just earned us a $10 million assurance. And possibly an ally for life." But the night had other plans. Later, as dinner was served, Yukimura excused himself to take a private call. Anna remained near the main table, sipping water and trying to blend in, until she felt a sudden presence beside her. "Caldwell, I hope you're enjoying yourself," he said, his tone coated in civility but hiding something sharper. "I am, thank you." "You should be careful, Anna. People are talking." "Let them," she replied calmly. His voice dropped. "You've got ambition, I'll give you that. But this isn't a fairy tale. The girl doesn't always get to climb the tower. Sometimes she falls." Anna met his gaze with quiet defiance. "Then I hope you're not standing too close when she does." Before he could reply, Yukimura returned, his expression unreadable. "There's been a breach," he told Anna under his breath. One of the investor's files was accessed remotely from an internal device. Anna's pulse quickened. "You think someone's leaking documents?" "I don't think. I know. And we have 15 minutes before someone else finds out." Together, they left the ballroom through a discreet side exit and took the staff elevator to the executive office floor. Yukimura's assistant, already waiting, handed Anna a tablet with the flagged activity log. Anna scanned the entries quickly. "There's a login from a shared employee account. Someone used the access point near the event kitchen, right before dinner was served. Marcia's crew." Anna's stomach dropped, not because she doubted Marcia, but because someone might be trying to frame them. She raced down the back corridor to the kitchen area. Inside, chaos buzzed as servers bustled around trays of desserts. She found Marcia near the back, giving directions. "Did anyone borrow your badge or use the computer near the service fridge?" Anna asked urgently. Marcia shook her head. "Not that I know of." Anna turned to leave, but paused. "Wait, the utility closet, does it still connect to the security console?" Marcia blinked. "It shouldn't. They disconnected that port months ago." Anna was already moving. She reached the utility room in seconds and opened the door. Inside, a man knelt in front of a small access panel, typing rapidly on a laptop. He looked up, startled. It was one of Caldwell's assistants, a man Anna had seen shadowing him earlier. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. The man jumped to his feet. "Nothing. I was just checking the temperature controls." "Put it down." Her voice was sharper now, firm. He hesitated. Behind her, Yukimura appeared with 2 hotel security officers. "You've just made a very expensive mistake," Yukimura said. The man's face collapsed. "It wasn't me. Caldwell told me to." The confession was cut off as security moved in. Later that night, after the man had been escorted out and Yukimura's internal review team sealed the breach, Anna sat alone in the quiet corridor just outside the ballroom. Her heart was still racing. Yukimura approached slowly and handed her a glass of water. "You saved our reputation tonight." "I almost didn't," she whispered. "But you did, and you didn't flinch." Anna looked up at him, the flickering hallway light reflecting in her eyes. "This isn't just about a hotel anymore, is it?" "No," he said softly. "This is about something much older than any company. It's about power, fear, and the people brave enough to face them." Anna nodded slowly. For the first time, she didn't feel like an outsider anymore. She felt like she belonged. And not because someone had let her in, because she had walked in on her own and refused to leave. Rain swept across the windows of the hotel as Anna sat in the temporary operations room, reviewing the final security footage from the night before. Her eyes were heavy, but her mind remained sharp. Every timestamp, every flicker of movement across the screen, she examined it all, looking not just for evidence, but for patterns. She wasn't just protecting Yukimura anymore. She was protecting the truth. A quiet knock broke her focus. It was Yukimura, wearing a charcoal gray coat, slightly damp from the rain. He stepped in without ceremony and placed a steaming cup of green tea in front of her. "You've been here all night," he said softly. Anna nodded. "The assistant we caught, he wasn't working alone. There's something deeper." Yukimura studied her face for a long moment. "We have a leak in legal. I just got word this morning someone's pushing to revoke one of our overseas licenses. It's moving faster than it should. We have a mole." Anna's jaw tightened. "Do you think it's Caldwell?" "I think Caldwell is the front," he replied. "But someone above him is feeding him information, someone who's been close to me for years." Anna leaned back, her mind spinning. "Do you trust anyone?" "I trust you," Yukimura said simply. The words landed heavier than expected. "I want you to attend the executive debriefing this afternoon," he continued. "And I want you to listen, not as a translator, as a strategist." "Oh," Anna blinked. "But no one knows this company better than the people who were never supposed to be in the room," he said, standing. "You've seen it from the floorboards up." That afternoon, the executive debriefing was held in one of the smaller conference suites on the top floor. It was a room of sleek glass walls, soundproof doors, and an energy that buzzed with unease. The senior board members were already seated when Anna entered. Older men in tailored suits, guarded expressions, and eyes that flicked toward her with thinly veiled skepticism. Caldwell was there too, silent, watching. Yukimura opened the meeting with a calm but firm tone. "We've contained the breach, but our internal vulnerabilities are far from resolved. I've brought in someone who sees things differently, Miss Anna." There was a pause, followed by a few murmurs of confusion. One of the board members, Mr. Whitley, cleared his throat. "Is she part of the IT division?" "No," Yukimura answered. "She's part of the Integrity Division, which doesn't officially exist, but after last night, it should." Anna stood, hands slightly trembling but voice clear. "The breach wasn't technical, it was human. Someone used access and timing things only someone internal would understand. We're not dealing with hackers, we're dealing with betrayal." Her words echoed in the room. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Whitley scoffed lightly. "What makes you qualified to diagnose betrayal, Miss Anna?" She met his eyes. "Because I used to work in every room you people never see. I heard your junior staff whisper things they'd never dare say in front of you. I cleaned up after your messes. I know who walks into which room after hours. And I watched you all underestimate the people who know this company better than your quarterly reports ever will." Yukimura leaned back with quiet satisfaction. Mr. Keene, the oldest board member, finally spoke. If we are being betrayed, then the question becomes, who gains the most from our collapse? Anna didn't flinch. Who benefits if Mr. Yukimura is discredited? Who was most threatened by the merger with the Japanese partners? Follow the ones who resisted that alliance most. Follow the ones who called me the maid. Caldwell stirred slightly. Whitley interrupted. Careful, Miss Anna. That sounds like an accusation. It's a hypothesis, she replied, and if I'm wrong, the data will show it. But if I'm right, you're sitting across from the person who wants this empire to burn. The room fell into silence. After the meeting, Anna stepped out into the hallway. Her heart was pounding. Yukimura joined her a moment later. You were extraordinary, he said. She shook her head. They still don't trust me. They will, he replied. Sooner than they think. That evening, Anna returned home and found an envelope slid under her door. No name, no return address. Inside, a single photograph. A blurry shot of her standing next to Yukimura in the corridor taken just days before. On the back, a message scribbled in ink. You're in too deep. Walk away before you drown. She stared at it for a long time, fingers tightening. But instead of fear, something else ignited resolve. The next morning, she arrived at Yukimura's office before dawn. He was already there, watching the city wake through his window. She placed the photograph on his desk. They're watching both of us. He studied it, then looked up at her. So we give them something to watch. Anna took a breath. I want full access. All internal communications from the last 30 days. All badge logs. Everything. You'll have it, he said. And when we find them? She asked. Yukimura's voice was calm, almost gentle. Then we make sure they never get back up. Outside, the city stirred oblivious to the silent war unfolding in its tallest towers. But Anna knew. This wasn't just business anymore. This was war, and she was done hiding in the shadows. 2 days later, Anna sat alone in a quiet room on the 29th floor of the hotel. The blinds were half drawn, casting diagonal shadows across the polished floor. A dozen files lay open in front of her employee access logs, email threads, badge swipe records, and metadata from security terminals. Somewhere in this data was the truth, and she was determined to dig it out with her own bare hands if she had to. Her phone buzzed softly. A message from Marcia. Found something. Meet me in the east stairwell. Urgent. Anna grabbed her blazer and moved quickly, her mind already racing with possibilities. The east stairwell was rarely used, quiet, dim, and just out of reach of the more trafficked hallways. When she pushed open the heavy fire door, Marcia was already waiting, her arms crossed, a manila folder clutched tight in one hand. Marcia's eyes were nervous. I shouldn't even have this, she said, handing the folder over. Anna flipped it open and scanned the contents. Inside were maintenance schedules, digital lock override logs, and a series of private communications between Martin Caldwell and someone identified only as DW, a name she hadn't seen before. Marcia leaned in. DW is Douglas Whitley. He's not just a board member. He owns 18% of the company. He helped Yukimura get the U.S. expansion approved 10 years ago. But something changed after that. Anna stared at the emails cold, coded exchanges that read more like war strategy than corporate operations. And then she saw it, a time-stamped message that read, "The girl is a problem. Eliminate her access quietly." It was sent 1 hour after her first public confrontation with Caldwell. Her throat tightened. I've seen this kind of thing before, Marcia whispered. They don't just push people out, Anna. They erase them. Anna closed the folder and stepped back. Can you send this to Yukimura's private line? I already did. Without another word, Anna headed straight to the executive elevator. By the time she reached Yukimura's private suite, he was already standing at the window, hands clasped behind his back. On the table beside him was the same folder, now open, its pages scattered like war plans. They're accelerating, he said without turning. Whitley wants me discredited within the week. He's scheduled an emergency board vote claiming I've breached fiduciary duty. Anna stepped closer. We have proof he's conspiring with Caldwell. That should be enough. No, Yukimura said. Not for the board. These men don't play by truth. They play by appearances. And if we try to fight with logic alone, we lose. Anna's voice was steady. Then we give them a different kind of truth. One they can't spin, one they can't unsee. That night, Yukimura arranged a private meeting with one of the Japanese investors, Mr. Hashimoto, the same man who had admired Anna's Kansai dialect. They met in a quiet tea room on the roof level, the city lights shimmering behind them like distant stars. Anna presented the folder, translating the content with precise, clear language. When she reached the email where her name was mentioned, her voice didn't waver. Hashimoto read in silence, then placed the folder down gently. In our culture, he said softly, honor is not negotiable. And betrayal, once revealed, must be answered. He turned to Yukimura. You must bring this to the full Investors' Council. Not just the board. If Whitley is trying to fracture your empire, you must show them what loyalty looks like. Yukimura bowed. Then I will ask Anna to present it. Anna's eyes widened. Me? Hashimoto nodded. Your voice is already a symbol. Let it be the blade as well. The following morning, Anna stood before the International Investors' Council, a semi-annual gathering of powerful men and women who rarely interfered unless something extraordinary demanded it. The room was quiet as she began. She walked them through the breach, the evidence, the attempted cover-up. Her voice was calm, deliberate, and laced with the quiet power of someone who had seen too much and finally had the floor. And then, she read aloud the email. The girl is a problem. Eliminate her access quietly. A hush swept over the room. And then Anna did something unexpected. She turned off the projector, walked to the center of the floor, and said, I was that girl. I cleaned the hallways where these men once walked past me like I was invisible. I wiped their prints from their glasses. I changed their linens. And still I listened. I learned. I watched how power is used and abused, how silence becomes currency. She paused. I never asked to be here. I was told I wasn't supposed to be. But now that I am, I will not let this company fall into the hands of men who think betrayal is a strategy. She stepped back. Hashimoto stood, slowly. Yukimura, he said in Japanese, do you trust this woman? Yukimura answered in the same language. With my life. One by one, the council members nodded. An emergency vote was held. Douglas Whitley was suspended indefinitely. An investigation was launched. And Martin Caldwell? He resigned within 24 hours. Later that day, Yukimura found Anna in the garden courtyard, sitting alone beneath a maple tree. He approached quietly and said, You didn't just survive this war. You changed the battlefield. Anna looked up, her voice low. I'm still that girl who started in the laundry room. And now, Yukimura said, you're also the reason this company still stands. He extended a small box to her. Inside, a new employee badge. Her title? Chief of Strategic Integrity. Anna smiled not because she had won, but because for the first time, no one could take her voice away. Anna adjusted the badge on her blazer. The words, Chief of Strategic Integrity, gleamed under the soft hallway lights, yet the weight it carried felt heavier than any title she'd ever known. The silence after the storm should have been comforting, but it wasn't, because she knew better. Power rarely vanishes. It just slips into new shadows. Downstairs in the private lounge of the hotel, Yukimura was meeting with Mr. Gerard Abrams, a high-ranking federal commerce advisor who'd quietly taken an interest in the company after the recent breach. Anna had been invited to attend not as an observer, but as a participant. She walked in calmly, her heels tapping against the oak floor. Abrams, a broad-shouldered man in his 60s, looked up from his scotch and extended a hand. You're the girl who turned this company inside out, he said, half amused. I'm the woman who put it back together, Anna replied, shaking his hand. Abrams chuckled, impressed. Touché. Yukimura motioned toward the chair next to him. Anna uncovered evidence suggesting the breach wasn't just internal. There's a link to a competitor, Riveron Technologies. They've been using offshore entities to funnel cash to Whitley. Abrams' face darkened. That would explain the noise we've been hearing in D.C. Anna laid out the new documents, transaction trails, encrypted communications decrypted by her contact in cybersecurity, and a voice recording. In it, Whitley's voice could be heard confirming a payout for delaying a major product launch in favor of a Riveron substitute. It's corporate espionage, Anna said bluntly. And it nearly destroyed Yukimura Global from the inside. Abrams nodded slowly. You know what this means? Anna nodded. We either bury it or go public. Yukimura added. And we need the government's help if we choose the latter. Abrams stood and paced. Going public will shake markets, but if we don't, this will happen again, and not just to you. He looked at Anna. Are you ready for the attention this will bring you? You won't just be the hero, you'll be the target. I already am, she said. But if we let silence win now, we invite every predator back into the building. That night, Anna sat at the hotel rooftop terrace, staring out at the blinking skyline. Her phone buzzed. A private message from an encrypted number. Walk away. Final warning. She stared at it, unmoved, then deleted the message. Moments later, Yukimura joined her, carrying a file folder. I had this delivered to my suite anonymously, he said. You should see it. Anna opened the folder. Inside were surveillance photos, not of her younger brother, Marcus, walking out of his high school, riding the subway, talking to friends. Her heart froze. They're trying to rattle you, Yukimura said. It's intimidation. No, she whispered. It's a threat. She stood up. They made a mistake, Yukimura. They think fear will shut me down, but they don't understand something fundamental. What's that? Anna looked him squarely in the eyes. I didn't come this far for myself. I came this far so the next girl who mops your floor doesn't have to bleed to be seen. He said nothing but nodded, slowly. The next day, a press conference was scheduled at the company headquarters in Chicago. It would be streamed live, across financial channels, with a large media turnout. The boardroom was transformed into a media center. The podium bore the company seal, flanked by the American and Japanese flags. When Anna arrived, she was dressed not in a suit, but in a modest blouse and slacks, the uniform of someone who worked her way up, not someone born into boardrooms. Reporters swarmed with questions, camera flashes popping, but she didn't flinch. Yukimura stood behind her, silent. She approached the podium, adjusted the mic, and took a breath. When I first came to this company, I wasn't given a badge. I was given a mop, she began. And every day, I walked past closed doors and conversations I wasn't meant to hear. But I listened, I watched, and I remembered. She paused. Last week, our company uncovered a betrayal not just of a CEO, but of trust, of values, of everything we claim to stand for. And we learned that silence, when rewarded, becomes a currency. So today, we choose to go broke before we sell our integrity. Reporters scribbled furiously. Cameras zoomed in. This isn't just a corporate cleanup, Anna continued. It's a reckoning. We've submitted all evidence to federal authorities, and we're cooperating fully in an open investigation that will hold those responsible accountable no matter their position, no matter their past. Her voice didn't waver. Not once. Some of you might ask why I'm the one standing here. It's because the people who caused this mess wouldn't dare. She stepped back from the podium, as murmurs rippled through the room. Behind her, Yukimura stepped forward. The board has ratified Miss Anna's appointment. She now leads our internal ethics division, one with real teeth, real oversight, and real consequences. The applause was quiet at first. Then it grew. That evening, Anna walked out of the building into the autumn air. Across the street, a small crowd had gathered: former employees, janitorial staff, security guards, people who had followed her story, people like her. One woman, in her 50s, stepped forward and took Anna's hand. My granddaughter watches you on the news. She thinks you're magic. Anna smiled. No, she said gently. I'm just finally visible. As she walked down the sidewalk, the lights of Chicago danced in puddles at her feet. And for the first time in her life, the city felt like hers too. The wind picked up that morning outside the federal courthouse in downtown Chicago. Anna stood at the base of the granite steps, her coat buttoned high against the early chill. Behind her, reporters buzzed like flies around a streetlight, cameras blinking to life, waiting for a glimpse of something, anything that would confirm the rumors. Inside the building, the Justice Department had officially filed criminal charges against Raymond Whitley and several executives from Riveron Technologies. The walls of deception had finally collapsed, and now the air was thick with justice long overdue. Anna's phone vibrated in her pocket. It was a text from Marcus. Watching you on the live stream. Grandma says you're like Harriet Tubman in heels. She smiled at that, blinking back emotion as her fingers curled tighter around her folder. The time had come. She walked up the courthouse steps, past the swarm of questions, and disappeared behind the tall black doors. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with restrained tension. Yukimura sat quietly on the front bench, beside Mr. Abrams. Across the aisle, Whitley's high-powered legal team huddled like vultures in suits. And in the back, unnoticed by most, sat the former housekeeper from Anna's childhood, a woman named Lucille who had first told her, "Don't ever let silence be your shield, let it be your slingshot." The judge entered. Proceedings began. When Anna took the witness stand, the courtroom stilled. She spoke clearly, steadily. She laid out the paper trail, the secret accounts, the corporate sabotage. She explained the pattern of lies that had fed on the silence of those afraid to lose their jobs. And then she paused. "My name is Anna Foster," she said, glancing at the jury. "I started as a maid. I cleaned the marble floors of boardrooms, where men like Mr. Whitley made decisions that affected thousands of lives. I was never meant to speak in those rooms, but I listened, and I remembered. A beat of silence. I don't stand here today because I'm special. I stand here because I chose not to forget the people behind the walls, those whose voices never made it past the elevator." She stepped down. By the time the judge called recess, the courtroom no longer buzzed. It vibrated. That evening, back at the hotel, Yukimura invited Anna for a private dinner. The restaurant sat atop the 44th floor, with views stretching to the lake. As they sat by the window, he raised a glass of sake. "To legacy," he said, "not built on power, but on principle." Anna clinked his glass. "And to never confusing the two again." They ate quietly for a while, the comfort of earned respect weaving between the courses. Midway through the meal, Yukimura handed her a sealed envelope. "What's this?" "An offer," he said, "to join the global board, not as a figurehead, as a leader." Anna opened the envelope. Inside was a letterhead bearing her name, in bold, black ink. Senior Executive Director of Integrity and Cultural Intelligence, Yukimura Global. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked out over the shimmering lights of Chicago below them and thought about the journey, about the nights she slept on cots in utility closets, about the times her voice cracked in silence, about the day she nearly walked away. "Thank you," she said finally, "but I'll only accept if you also fund an independent foundation to train and empower voices like mine. People from the kitchens, the mailrooms, the janitor closets." He leaned back and smiled. "Already in motion. We've named it the Foster Initiative." Anna's eyes welled, not from pride but from release. The following month, the courtroom verdict was read aloud. Guilty on all counts. Whitley, stripped of power, was escorted out in cuffs. Riveron Technologies plummeted in value. And on the steps outside, dozens of former employees, whistleblowers, janitors, assistants held a banner that read, "Truth has no rank." Anna didn't attend the celebration. Instead, she stood that day in the parking lot of her old high school. She'd returned to speak to a group of graduating seniors, most of them first-generation kids from working-class families. She stood in the same auditorium she once scrubbed as part of the custodial program. When she walked up to the microphone, the room quieted. "You won't always be invited into the rooms where decisions are made," she began. "But that doesn't mean you don't belong. I'm not here because someone gave me a chance. I'm here because I took one." She paused, letting the words settle. "Never forget this. Silence is not weakness, it is space. And in that space, you get to choose whether to fill it with fear or with truth." The students stood in applause, some wiping away tears, others recording every word on their phones. Outside, under the old oak tree by the track field, Lucille stood waiting with a smile. "You did it, baby," she said, arms open. "You showed them all." Anna leaned into the hug. "I didn't show them," she whispered. "I reminded them." As they stood beneath the branches, sunlight flickered through the leaves like quiet applause. No more shadows, no more corners, just truth loud, living, and finally unafraid. And that, Anna thought, was the real beginning. The story reminds us that true power doesn't come from titles or wealth, it comes from courage, integrity, and the refusal to stay silent in the face of injustice. Anna's journey shows that even the most unheard voices can bring down empires when they speak with truth. It's a tribute to those who rise from the margins, not for revenge, but to restore dignity and reshape the future.